So thanks, Ben, and thank you, Stellar, for inviting us to speak at Meridian. Very excited about it. So quick background, I came out to the Bay Area to do my undergrad in engineering at Stanford, ended up going out to the East Coast to do MBA at Harvard, and then came back, worked in consulting at McKinsey, and then had a number of senior payments roles, led payments for Wells Fargo, and then also was president of OFX, which is an international payments company. Probably one of the most relevant things is I was the founder and CEO of Zelle, which is the largest person-to-person payments network in the United States. Interstellar is a company that's looking to revolutionize payments across the world. Most notably, or initially, we're focused on cross-border payments. We feel that we have the payments expertise. We also have the technology understanding. We believe in the blockchain. We believe specifically in the Stellar blockchain as the way to revolutionize financial services. And so we work with companies similar to Lightnet, VeloLabs, and others to help to achieve this vision of using the blockchain, using the Stellar blockchain to revolutionize financial services, starting with international payments to make those faster, cheaper, and more efficient.
Okay, Beam here. Thank you so much, Stella, for inviting me to speak at Meridian to talk about Lightnet and collaboration with Interstellar. So a bit of my background, Stanford Engineering, Stanford MBA, spent more than 10 years in investment banking and private equity, mainly investing in the financial service space. After that, I became a serial entrepreneur, have founded multiple companies, including Money Table, which is a payroll on demand in Thailand. Also a venture partner at Kechora Venture, one of the leading venture capital fund in Southeast Asia. And now I'm the co-founder and also the group CEO of Lightnet. So Lightnet is the next generation financial network. We are basically, so if Stella is a Swiss, what we want to build here is similar to the Visa network that connect all kind of financial network together, where we act as a bridge. So Lightnet is backed by all the leading conglomerate in Asia. We are backed by CB Group, which is one of the largest conglomerate in Thailand, and also the owner of 7-Eleven in Thailand and in other Southeast Asian countries. We are also backed by 7-Bank, which is a group that owns 7-Eleven in Japan. Also Uni-President, which owns 7-Eleven in Taiwan, Philippines, and China, as well as other leading financial conglomerate like Hanwha from Korea, UOB Bank from Singapore. And the original idea is how do we, because Stellar is a great open financial network, and how do we kind of like using Stellar blockchain, connecting to our credit layer, and then we also have another blockchain protocol that we developed with Interstellar called Velo, which acts as a bridge asset. With that credit layer, with the Stellar network, we want to connect to different 7-Eleven, because in Southeast Asia, most of people transact using cash and cash out network. So our original idea is connecting from Stellar network to our network to basically different cash and cash out across Southeast Asia to cover the unbanked and underbanked. From there, we have also done, we also able to connect to digital bank, connect to credit card rail, and connect to different rail. So our goal is really three things. It's really financial inclusion, which is able to cover anyone through different financial settlement and financial touch point. Two is able to make our network like a bridge to allow for any kind of interoperability across all kind of platforms. Because in Southeast Asia, people they are using cryptocurrency now to transact, as well as the underbank, we just use cash at 7-Eleven. And then lastly, we're working with Interstellar to hoping that we can create kind of like a digital fiat network, because where we can make the cost the most competitive. Because if you do a digital fiat transaction, there actually no real cash transact between the digital network, and that allow you to give the most competitive exchange rate. And that would allow to also cut a lot of middlemen, because bank can talk directly to 7-Eleven without the need to go to Swift or go to a multiple middleman to settle. So in short, Lightnet is hoping that working with Interstellar to utilize the Stellar network, we could bring financial inclusion to the Asia, especially Southeast Asia market, as well as able to allow for interoperability to create the best financial mobility for the Asia Pacific.
Really amazed me was just the scale and extent of your operations. I mean, 7-Bank has 69,000 convenience stores globally that they run. The amount of contact points that are in this network is very large. And it seems to be a market that's ripe for this kind of disruption, given that over 70% of transactions in this part of the world tend to be kind of cash oriented. So I find that very interesting. And it seems to be well positioned in terms of both having that network and then having that technology that they can then facilitate these transactions.
Yeah, no, exactly. So as I said, we're focused on improving financial services and cross-border payments. One of the things that we learned when we created Zelle was that for a payments network, you need scale. You also need to be solving a real world problem. And so we looked and we said, is there a problem with cross-border payments? And the answer is obviously yes. They're slow, they're inefficient, et cetera. Are there better ways to do it? We think absolutely. The second way is that you need scale. Anytime you have a network business, if you have one person that has a telephone, it's not very helpful. If you have two people, it's somewhat helpful. You can only talk to each other. But once you get everyone to have telephones, it's great. So same thing with sending and receiving money. You need to be able to have senders and receivers. And so one of the things that we felt was amazing about this partnership was that Beam and the rest of the team have these great relationships with large institutions, the CP Group, Hanwha, UOB, as you mentioned, 7Bank. Overall, I think there's over 40,000 7-Elevens owned and operated by these institutions collectively that are part of this collective. You have agents at 5 million different agents. So doing this and being able to help with the product, with the technology, with the implementations of this into this vast network will really get both sides of the transaction going, which really is that flywheel going. It helps us to build it considerably. And with that speed and with that growth, you'll be able to have these faster, more efficient, lower cost transactions, which will deliver the value to the businesses, will deliver the value to the end users, and it will allow people to send money home, for example, migrant workers to be able to send money home with only having a very small fraction of it taken away in fees, as opposed to today where a large percentage is. And you want to make sure that those people that are working hard get the money back home where it should go and not have it taken by a bunch of middlemen.
There seems to be a lot of parallels with the work they did in Zelle in terms of, you've got these kind of banks and financial institutions, and then you have the kind of customers that kind of next kind of level down. So you're pulling those customers through that network that's created. Is that right? Is that kind of
yeah? No, exactly. That's exactly right. It's very hard and very admirable when people can create a business where they're bringing one end consumer at a time, starting from none. It's a lot. I've found it, and we found with Zelle, it's a lot easier to say, oh, here's a partner. We can integrate with this partner once. They can expose it through all their channels, and they happen to have 10 million customers. Here's another one with 5 million customers. Here's one with 15 million customers, and you can get up to speed very quickly. With Zelle, we've gotten up to over 1 billion transactions a year. Doing over $100 billion of transactions, and we did that by, as you said, we're a business. We connect to these banks, these money transmitters, et cetera, who then have existing customer bases they can expose this to. And we're all doing this on the Stellar network, which is fantastic for, I would assume everyone or most of the people on this call today, looking to grow the Stellar network. And this is the way that we feel is the best way to do that.
Most people don't know that CP Group is one of the largest shareholder Ping An, which is also the largest insurance and also the major player in financial service in China. So CP Group have not only 7-Eleven, not only many retail stores, but also a long credibility of doing financial services. So with the trust, with involved the business and the technology, so initial people that are coming, right? 7-Eleven Japan, and also Uni-President, which is 7-Eleven Taiwan, Philippines, China, because they're aware that look, 7-Eleven, there are 3 million Southeast Asian workers in Japan. They're sending money to Southeast Asia. So if CP Group can cover the receive side in Southeast Asia with the 7-Eleven, and then 7-Eleven Japan could cover the send side from Japan. Hanwha could cover the send side from Korea, because in Korea, there are also around 2 million Southeast Asian workers. And then they're also a big, and also Uni-President, right, with that position in Philippines, it's a large receiver market, right, from Middle East, from different send. So when they look at this partnership, it's like, oh, this is a very unique partnership where you can build basically both send and receive remittance network using Stellar network, using Interstellar help to really build instantaneous transfer without the need to go through SWIFT. So once people agree on this value proposition, and when you start getting all this name, other people follow. And
across, this goal that you all have. And can you talk a little bit more about, the goals that you're trying to achieve? Clearly, it's about helping the unbanked. It's about lowering the cost of remittance, getting rid of the shadow banking system, things of that kind of nature. But I'd love to hear it in your own words.
Okay, so I think Southeast Asia, right, is have nearly 700 million population. 70% of them are unbanked or underbanked. Southeast Asia remittance market is really big, right? And also fundamentally, if you want to compare right now, it's similar to like if people ask why Alibaba, why number of e-commerce are so successful in China, because when they start back then, they really know e-commerce, they really know commerce infrastructure. So people using e-commerce as a main commerce infrastructure. Southeast Asia is like that for the banking sector. If you compare the banking sector in Southeast Asia to US, we probably have less than 10 times to 20 times the banking branch coverage compared between Southeast Asia to the US. We also have a very extremely low financial inclusion, where cost of doing financial is really expensive. However, even though we are very low financial inclusion, we have close to 100% mobile phone penetration in Southeast Asia. And a lot of countries in Southeast Asia, like Philippines, Indonesia, they're island, which means banking sector, it's really hard for banking sector to cover them. Now, even though it's very fragmented, it's a market where all Southeast Asia countries are interconnected. And what's very interesting is if you look at Singapore, right? They now is a country where more than 30% are immigrant workers and expat. And other Southeast Asia countries try to follow. So if you think that after COVID, there's a migration pattern for international people to move to South Asia because it's the next stage for growth. Imagine it become a region of 1 billion people where 30% are expat immigrant worker. So including underbanked, including expat, including immigrant worker, you can imagine that it will be one of the world's largest remittance space with no infrastructure. So our vision here is how do we able to create a universal credit settlement to really serve all kind of people in Southeast Asia and Asia Pacific and beyond. Because different places are transacting differently, right? I mean, a lot of people are using cash and cash out network. Some are using bank. Some now are using cryptocurrency to transact. And also, right, if you rely on SWIFT, everything has to route back to US, come back to Asia with a different time zone, very expensive, take 3-4 days to settle. So the vision of Lightnet in working with Interstellar, how we become like a Visa card network that is a universal credit. But instead of just transact with merchant and issuing card, we can basically accept any kind of money form. We can then allow people who connect to our network, any anchor, to be able to settle in any form.